I wish I was able to play Black Ops 6 right now, but for me personally, I did not pre-order the game to be able to get early access to its beta, so I have to wait a little longer in order to play BO6, but for the time being, I'm gonna have to settle with playing Modern Warfare 3 or any other first-person shooter that is available right now. Anyways, hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video, and we are back on Modern Warfare 3. I wanted to take a moment to talk about something that I kind of noticed when I started listening to other creators' perspectives, and that is how Warzone is becoming nowadays. Well, basically what Warzone is starting to become nowadays in comparison to what it was like in the past. As we all know, Warzone at its core is still a battle royale. You fly into a big map, you land, you get yourself loot, you use the loot to try to fend off any incoming enemies that are approaching you, and you try to last as long as you can to be the last person standing. Understandable. And it wasn't until later on throughout the lifespan of Warzone where we were introduced to Resurgence. Resurgence is you being able to play Battle Royale but on a much smaller map. And at its core, you were still able to do the usual stuff that you would do in the big maps that you would play on any Battle Royale. One thing about Resurgence that made it stand out from every other mode in Warzone was that once you died, you would have to wait for a timer to go down for you to be able to respawn back in action. And I'm not talking about like the jailbreak or anything like that. I'm talking like as soon as you died, you then were automatically given a timer that you had to wait until you were able to spawn back into the map. Oh, quad feed. Let's go. Despite the popularity of Resurgence, more specifically on Rebirth Island, for example, people still wanted to see some gameplay on the big map that was available at the time, whether it be Verdansk, Caldera, Al Mazrah, and in this case, Urzikstan. Not too long ago, I ended up watching a clip on either Twitter or TikTok, and it was Aydan who was giving his thoughts on what Warzone has become nowadays. Those who do not know Aydan, he's one of the most popular, most incredible professional gamers in the Call of Duty community. This dude was going off on the likes of Fortnite, Call of Duty, and so forth. And not only that, but he was also one of the highest earning professional players in gaming. Aydan has had a lot of experience with playing battle royales for a long time, especially at a professional level, that nowadays, since he's mostly relegated to playing Warzone, he's seen how the battle royale has evolved over time, and it's safe to say that he's not very high on how it's progressed to where it is today. If I had to paraphrase what Aydan said, he's implying that it's become way too easy for you to be able to get back into the action on Warzone and still drop high kill games. He's basically implying that Warzone has gotten to a point where it's starting to become a more glorified version of 6v6 multiplayer, something that we would usually experience whenever we were playing Modern Warfare 3, Modern Warfare 2, Black Ops Cold War, you name it. I'll try to find that clip so you guys know what I'm talking about. So this is the clip that I ended up discovering on Twitter or TikTok. I hope this is the right one, but we'll see.
Literally feels like multiplayer. I missed the core. Bro, remember back in fucking Verdansk? There was no gulag tokens. Literally, it cost 4K to fucking res your teammate back. And it actually felt like, I remember playing 2v2 kill races when they were in their prime. And like, if your teammate died, it actually felt like it was going to be a bit of a challenge to get him back. And like, if they died, it kind of fucking sucked. In this game, it doesn't even matter. It's like, cool. You can go solo squad in a 2v2 and die. Who fucking cares? I'll res you back for the cheap. And you just go fucking keep doing your thing. Like, it's too easy to get back in this game right now. Way too easy to get back in this game right now.
But he basically said it himself, like Warzone is pretty much progressing in a way in which it's becoming way too easy for you to be able to get back into the action, or if you're playing with squads, it's become a lot easier for you to be able to get your squad mate back in, whether it's through gulag tokens, whether it's through reinforcement flares, whether if it's the cost that you had to pay in order to get your teammate back in via the buy station. Like, it's just become so much easier to where in a way, it's starting to come off as 6v6 multiplayer, but a more glorified version in Warzone. I'll try to provide a link to this video down in the description so you guys can go and check it out for yourselves, whether if it's by watching it or just supporting the tweet specifically. I'll put a link down in the description for you guys to go and support it. After watching that clip back, once again, I can't find myself to disagree with Aydan. Like, Warzone, it has gotten to a point where it's become way too easy for you to be able to get back into the action, to the point to where it's starting to become a more glorified version of 6v6 multiplayer. As a matter of fact, some of the pro players that I watch who do play Warzone, they're not even playing on the big map that is Urzikstan. They're spending a lot of their time playing Resurgence on Rebirth Island. Some of the examples like Z-Laner or Destroy, those guys are mainly spending their time playing Resurgence on Rebirth Island rather than playing on Urzikstan, and I could only imagine just how many more content creators, more specifically pro players in the Warzone scene, are spending a lot of their time playing on Rebirth than on Urzikstan. Really, when it comes down to it, the more easier it's become for players to get back into the action, the more Warzone starts to lose its identity of what it was originally supposed to be. I genuinely think because of the decisions that Raven has made in regards to how they update Warzone and such, it's starting to make the Battle Royale lose its identity to an extent. Because originally, it was very hard for you to get back into the action. When you lost a teammate, you actually felt the weight of that happening. But nowadays, it's just not like that anymore. And it really is making me think, like, why would I go and play, you know, 6v6 multiplayer like I would in the likes of Modern Warfare 3 when I can also play it on Warzone 2, because it's pretty much performing that way. I still haven't heard any Warzone player give their thoughts on the next iteration of the Battle Royale, especially with Black Ops 6 coming very soon. I haven't heard that much feedback in regards to what people are thinking of how Warzone performs with Black Ops 6's Omnimovement system and all these other gameplay mechanics that are going to get incorporated come Season 1. It wouldn't surprise me if this is the route that they decide to go down, where it becomes a more glorified version of 6v6 multiplayer. If that is the route that the devs are intending to go with for the next iteration of Warzone, it's going to be very disappointing, man. It really will. God damn it, man. I was trying to find some more people. Dude, I gotta figure out what's going on with my webcam because it's just acting up for some reason. I gotta figure this out. Alright, so I ended up tweaking some setting for my webcam within OBS. I don't know if that fixes that static issue. If not, man, I'm gonna have to look into this in my spare time and figure out what else I could do to fix it. I also noticed another thing too, in which there are some players, I'm not saying this is everybody, but apparently there's still some players who are still voicing their displeasure about having to face off against sweaty players within the Black Ops 6 multiplayer beta. I saw a clip on TikTok where some player was getting very annoyed with having to play against people who were playing as if there was like $500 or $100,000 on the line, and I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, dude, this is what you chose to endure. You cannot be surprised when this actually happens. Because this is my thing, alright? Skill-based matchmaking has become a thing within Call of Duty over the last several years. Ever since Modern Warfare 2019 came onto the scene, skill-based matchmaking has become a lot stronger than before. Every single year, a good portion of the Call of Duty community has voiced their displeasure about having to endure something like this in Call of Duty whenever they do good. So much to the point to where that there have been players who have been calling for these devs or Activision to remove skill-based matchmaking, or at the very least dial it back to a certain extent, because at the end of the day we don't want to get punished for doing well in a video game. Every single year that we have called for Activision to do such a thing, it's fallen on deaf ears. Well, not necessarily, because they did go out of their way to give us an extensive look into how their matchmaking system works, but it still wasn't enough for us to get what we want, and it's that skill-based matchmaking is dialed back to a certain extent. Now for me personally, I'm not a fan of skill-based matchmaking in Call of Duty. I have also voiced my displeasure, as I don't find enjoyment in having to play against people who play just as well as me, if not better. It can, at some point, it can take a toll on me mentally, as having to try even harder to combat those who are sweating like I am. It can get very exhausting, I will admit that. But at the same time, I'm not like one of these many players who insist on voicing their displeasure about the enforcement of skill-based matchmaking in Call of Duty, to where I'm calling for Activision to dial it back to a certain extent, because at the end of the day, I've accepted that skill-based matchmaking is going to perform the way that it has been over the last several years. Like, Activision isn't going to put much effort in dialing it back for us to be able to enjoy. I ended up alluding to this in my X-Defiant video that I uploaded not too long ago, where I basically said that there's a good number of players who still want to endure skill-based matchmaking despite their displeasure for it, which is why they're so incapable of playing any other first-person shooter that doesn't have strong skill-based matchmaking. The point that I'm trying to make is this: Activision has made it clear that they have no intention on dialing back on the level of skill-based matchmaking that we have in Call of Duty multiplayer, despite us voicing our displeasure for how strong it has gotten throughout the recent Call of Duty titles. Activision has made it clear that they're not going to do so because they want to protect players who are just as bad at the game as a few others are. And I personally said it too: if you're somebody who is so sick and tired of having to play against people who play just as well as you are, if not better, there's plenty of other 6v6 shooters that you can indulge in to where you don't have to worry about players sweating against you. There's Battlefield, there's Overwatch, there's X-Defiant. There's still plenty of options for you, the player, to indulge in to where you don't have to worry about playing against sweaty motherfuckers. I'm not trying to sound like an asshole. Like, I understand where people are coming from, but at the same time, you still make the choice on whether or not you want to indulge skill-based matchmaking in a first-person shooter like Call of Duty. If you're somebody who doesn't want to, there's other alternatives. There's Overwatch, there's Battlefield, X-Defiant. There's plenty to choose from. Yes, the content distribution might not be on the level of Call of Duty. The patch rollout might not be on the level of Call of Duty, but at the same time, if you really let that derail, if you really let that be the deal breaker for why you can't enjoy any other 6v6 shooter, then my guess is you are probably the problem. For me personally, I've been enjoying the heck out of X-Defiant, mainly because I don't have to worry about playing against people who are just as good as me, if not better. Yes, it can get annoying having to play against people who sweat their asses off, but at the same time, it's not like I'm dealing with it in every single match like I normally would in Call of Duty, and it's so refreshing to see. Skill-based matchmaking is not going to get dialed back in any Call of Duty going forward, and it sure as hell is not going to get dialed back in Black Ops 6. And if it's something that you don't want to deal with, then there's other options for you to choose from. That's really all I'm trying to say. Now, I don't want you guys to think that I'm trying to attack you in any way, shape, or form. I understand why you don't want to endure skill-based matchmaking in Call of Duty, especially with every new title that we get going forward, and in this case, Black Ops 6. I genuinely understand. But at the same time, you also got to admit that if you insist on playing Call of Duty going forward, you are going to have to endure what the game is going to make you endure, whether you like it or not. Especially when you take into account that Activision has insisted that they are not going to dial back on the level of skill-based matchmaking that there is in their current COD titles. They're just not going to. It sucks, but it is what it is. That's pretty much what I wanted to talk about in this video. Warzone, apparently it's progressing to where it's starting to become a more glorified version of 6v6 multiplayer. And as far as skill-based matchmaking goes, look man, if you don't want to endure it, there's other options in the market that you can choose from. It's entirely up to you. But I want to know from you guys, what is your stance on Warzone becoming a more glorified version of 6v6 multiplayer? But also, what do you make of skill-based matchmaking in Call of Duty nowadays? Do you still choose to endure it, or have you decided to go and explore other options? Let me know in the comments down below. I want to know what you guys have to say. But with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, you're more than welcome to drop a like on it. And if you enjoyed this type of content, you're more than welcome to hit that subscribe button and that bell notification. If you happen to be watching this on my Rumble channel, you're more than welcome to do the same, as clicking that follow button and that bell would be very much appreciated. But until then, thank you guys so much for watching. It's been your boy Discreet, and I'll catch you in the next video.